She didn't flirt. She didn't rush. She just smiled, like she already knew what I was trying not to feel. The story opens in an ordinary setting made intimate by attention, a place the narrator passes through without thinking, until she's there. He's not searching for connection, not in a romantic sense. His life at this point is about momentum, about learning who he is by moving forward. That makes the moment more striking when he feels himself slow down without meaning to. He notices her before he understands why. Not because she's loud or trying to be seen, but because she isn't. She stands comfortably in her space, shoulders relaxed, movements unhurried. There's an ease to her that suggests she knows exactly who she is and doesn't feel the need to explain it. When she turns toward him, their eyes meet naturally, without the awkward scramble to look away. Then she smiles. It isn't bright or teasing. It doesn't ask for anything. It settles. The kind of smile that feels less like an invitation and more like recognition. Her lips curve slowly, deliberately, and there's a quiet warmth behind it, something practiced, lived in. For a split second, it feels as though she's already met him somewhere else, somewhere deeper. The narrator feels it in his body before his mind catches up. His breath shifts. His shoulders ease. There's a subtle awareness in his chest, like a door he didn't know existed has been nudged open. He's not flattered in the usual way. He's steadied. As if her attention has given him permission to be fully present. She holds the smile just long enough to matter, then lets it fade naturally as she looks away. No lingering stare. No signal to follow. And yet, something has already moved. He becomes aware of details he normally wouldn't register, the faint sound of her breath as she exhales, the soft fall of her hair near her jaw, the calm confidence in the way she shifts her weight. When she speaks, a simple, polite exchange, her voice is low and even, carrying a warmth that doesn't rush to fill silence. She listens as much as she talks, and when he answers, she actually hears him. There's a moment when she tilts her head slightly, as if considering him from a different angle. Her gaze isn't assessing, it's curious, thoughtful. It leaves him feeling both exposed and understood, a contradiction he doesn't know how to hold yet. When the interaction ends, it does so cleanly. No dramatic exit. No promise. She moves on with the same composure she arrived with. But the space she leaves behind feels altered. Thinner. Charged. Later, much later, he realizes the smile didn't make him want her. It made him feel chosen. And that, more than attraction, is what stays with him as the story moves forward. What unsettles him most isn't how quickly she becomes familiar, it's how naturally it happens. Their interactions don't arrive with ceremony, they slip into his days the way light does through a window he's stopped noticing. A few words here. A shared pause there. Each time, her presence reshapes the room without asking permission. He begins to recognize the rhythm of her before he recognizes his feelings. The measured way she walks, never rushing even when time is short. The way she turns fully toward him when he speaks, giving him her attention without distraction. It's different from the scattered exchanges he's used to, this feels deliberate, almost generous. There's comfort in that. And a quiet tension, too. She remembers things. Not the obvious facts, but the smaller details, how he prefers his coffee, the way he hesitates before answering personal questions, the subject he lights up when he talks about it. When she brings these things up later, casually, it catches him off guard. He's not used to being held in someone else's awareness like that. Their physical closeness increases in ways that feel unplanned but unmistakable. When they stand near each other, there's less space than before, not close enough to be obvious, but close enough that he can feel the warmth from her arm. Once, as she emphasizes a point, her hand settles briefly on his forearm. The contact is light, almost absent-minded, but it sends a quiet awareness through him, like his body is noting something important before his mind does. He becomes acutely aware of how she moves when she laughs, the slight forward lean, the way her shoulders soften. The scent she carries is subtle, not sweet, something warm and grounded. When she speaks his name, it sounds intentional, like she's anchoring the moment. The age difference reveals itself not in numbers, but in how she holds space. She doesn't rush to fill silence or soften discomfort. When there's a pause, she lets it exist, and somehow that makes him braver. He finds himself speaking more honestly than he usually does, not because she asks, but because she makes room. Internally, something begins to shift. He notices himself adjusting to her presence, slowing his speech, choosing his words with care, wanting to meet her steadiness rather than impress her. He starts anticipating their conversations, replaying them afterward, wondering if she feels the same quiet pull he does. And yet, she never pushes. There's a confidence in her restraint that both comforts and unsettles him. It makes the connection feel intentional rather than accidental. Like she's allowing something to grow at its own pace, trusting it to reveal itself in time. One evening, as they stand side by side, their shoulders brush briefly. The contact is fleeting, but it lingers in his awareness long after they separate. He realizes then that her presence has become something he carries with him, not as a distraction, but as a steady undercurrent. By the end of this part, he understands something without fully naming it yet. She is no longer just someone he encounters. She is someone he feels. The shift doesn't announce itself. It arrives the way evening does, slowly, almost unnoticed, until suddenly the light is different and everything feels more intimate. They find themselves in a quieter pocket of time, the kind that invites conversation without demanding it. The noise of the world fades into a low hum, leaving space for something more deliberate. She speaks first, not with a confession, but with honesty. A simple observation about how tired she is, not physically, but in the deeper way that comes from carrying responsibility for too long. The words land gently, without drama, and yet they feel like a door opening. He senses that she's choosing what to reveal, measuring trust rather than spilling it. He listens. Really listens. Not to respond, not to impress, but to understand. He notices how her voice softens when she talks about the past, how her gaze drifts for a moment as if she's looking at memories instead of the room. There's a steadiness beneath it all, but also a quiet vulnerability, a woman who has loved, lost, learned, and kept going anyway. As she speaks, the space between them changes. Chairs angle closer. Knees turn toward each other. At one point, her shoulder brushes his, and neither of them moves away. The contact is light, but it grounds him in the moment, makes him aware of the warmth of her through fabric and air. He responds carefully, sharing pieces of himself that usually stay unspoken. His uncertainty about the future. The pressure he feels to become someone worth taking seriously. He doesn't overshare, he offers fragments, testing whether they'll be received with care. She receives them fully. When he pauses, unsure whether to continue, she doesn't rush him. She waits, eyes steady, expression open. That patience gives him courage. He finishes the thought, and when he does, she nods slowly, as if acknowledging something important rather than offering advice. There's a long stretch of silence that follows. Not awkward. Not empty. It feels thick with meaning, like both of them are aware that something has shifted but neither wants to disturb it by naming it too soon. He becomes conscious of his breathing, of how close she is, of the faint sound of her inhale and exhale. She breaks the silence with a small smile, softer than before, touched with something thoughtful. Her hand lifts slightly, then settles back into her lap, as if she's considered reaching for him and chosen restraint instead. That almost touch leaves a stronger impression than contact would have. Inside, he feels a tension he doesn't know how to resolve yet. Admiration has deepened into something more vulnerable, care, maybe even longing, and with it comes hesitation. He's aware of the difference in their lives, the unspoken questions that linger at the edges of the moment. When they part, it's unremarkable on the surface. But as he walks away, he realizes the quiet space between their words has followed him. It hums beneath his thoughts, carrying the weight of everything they didn't say. And for the first time, he understands that silence with her isn't absence. It's intimacy waiting to be acknowledged. The moment doesn't arrive with certainty. It drifts in, carried by the same calm that has begun to define their time together. They're close, closer than usual, sharing a conversation that feels lighter on the surface but charged underneath. He's aware of her in a way that's become familiar, the warmth of her presence, the steadiness of her attention, the quiet pull that draws him toward her without force. They're seated side by side, their bodies angled inward, knees nearly touching. As he speaks, he gestures without thinking, and that's when it happens. Her hand settles over his. The contact is gentle, unhurried. Her palm rests against the back of his hand, warm and steady, fingers relaxed rather than gripping. It's not a reflex. It's a choice. He feels it immediately, not just the physical sensation, but the weight of meaning behind it. The warmth of her skin seeps into him, and his breath catches, just slightly. His body responds before his thoughts do, muscles softening, heartbeat slowing into a deeper rhythm. For a moment, the rest of the world fades, leaving only the quiet certainty of her touch. She doesn't speak. She doesn't look away either. When he lifts his eyes, he finds hers already on him, calm, open, searching. There's no question in her expression, no demand for an answer. Just presence. He doesn't pull his hand back. Instead, he lets it stay there, feeling the gentle pressure of her palm, the subtle curve of her fingers. The touch anchors him, makes the moment feel undeniably real. He becomes acutely aware of how close they are, the faint brush of her sleeve against his arm, the shared warmth between them. Time stretches. He wonders briefly if he should say something, but the thought dissolves. Words feel unnecessary, even intrusive. Everything that matters is happening in the space between their hands, in the quiet agreement of stillness. Then, slowly, she smiles. It's the same smile from their first meeting, that calm, knowing curve of her lips, but softened now by something more vulnerable. Less certainty, more openness. It tells him that she understands the weight of this moment as clearly as he does. After a few seconds, long enough to matter, she lifts her hand away. The absence of her touch is immediate, almost startling. His skin tingles where she had been, like the memory of warmth lingers longer than it should. Neither of them acknowledges what just happened. They return to their conversation, but something fundamental has shifted. The air feels different, charged, attentive. He notices his words coming slower, more carefully, as if he's aware now that everything between them carries consequence. Inside, he knows there's no going back to neutrality. That simple, intentional touch has crossed a line he can't uncross, not into something reckless, but into something honest. As they part later, her gaze lingers on him just a second longer than before. And when she turns away, the echo of her hand remains with him, steady and undeniable. It isn't passion that overwhelms him. It's clarity. Clarity, it turns out, is heavier than uncertainty. In the days that follow, the memory of her touch doesn't fade the way he expects it to. It settles into him, quiet but insistent, showing up in moments when he's trying to focus on anything else. He replays the feel of her hand over his, the steadiness of it, the way it seemed to say this is real without asking permission. And with that realization comes a weight he can't ignore. He starts to pull back. Not abruptly, not enough to be obvious, just small adjustments. He leaves a little more space when they stand together. His replies come a beat later than they used to. When their eyes meet, he's the first to look away. To anyone else, nothing has changed. To him, everything has. The questions begin quietly, then grow louder. What would this look like from the outside? How long could something like this stay uncomplicated? He's aware of how new his life still feels, how much of himself he's still shaping. Beside that, her life seems established, layered with experiences he hasn't lived yet. The difference unsettles him, not because it feels wrong, but because it feels significant. He notices the absence before he admits it to himself. The lack of her casual touches. The way conversations no longer linger as long. The space between them feels colder, like a window left open too long. He tells himself he's doing the responsible thing, protecting both of them from something that could become difficult. She notices, of course. She doesn't confront him. She doesn't ask what's changed. Instead, she mirrors his distance with a grace that somehow hurts more than accusation would. Her posture remains open, her tone kind, but there's a carefulness now, a restraint that wasn't there before. It feels like she's stepped back out of respect, not indifference. That restraint becomes the sharpest ache. One afternoon, they share a quiet moment that once would have felt easy. Now it feels strained, like a word caught in the throat. He senses the unspoken question between them, not what is this, but are you going to choose it? Inside, he's split. Part of him wants to return to the ease they had, to let himself be guided by the calm certainty she offers. Another part fears the weight of being taken seriously by someone who sees him so clearly. He worries about disappointing her, about becoming something temporary in her life when she deserves intention. The conflict drains him. He's more distracted, less present. Even when they're apart, she occupies his thoughts, not as longing alone, but as regret in progress. The breaking point comes quietly. He catches her watching him one evening, her expression soft but distant. There's no accusation there, just acceptance. And that's when he understands what his hesitation is costing him. Distance, he realizes, isn't neutral. It's a decision. And standing there, feeling the growing space between them, he knows he can't keep choosing silence without losing something that already matters more than he wants to admit. The decision doesn't feel brave when he makes it. It feels necessary. He waits for a moment that isn't rushed, one that belongs to both of them. When it comes, it's quiet, the kind of stillness that invites truth rather than demands it. They're alone enough to speak freely, close enough to feel the weight of what's about to be said. His pulse is steady but heavy, like his body understands the importance of what his mind is still trying to catch up to. He starts slowly. Not with a declaration, not with an apology, but with honesty. He admits that he pulled back. That he was afraid of misreading something real and turning it into something careless. His words aren't perfectly polished, they pause and restart, shaped by sincerity rather than confidence. She listens without interrupting. Her attention is complete, shoulders angled toward him, hands resting loosely in her lap. Her eyes stay on his, not searching for reassurance, just receiving what he offers. The absence of judgment steadies him, encourages him to continue. He speaks about feeling seen by her in a way that unsettled him. About wanting to be worthy of the calm and intention she brings into his life. When he finishes, the silence that follows is deliberate. She takes a breath, slow and measured, as if honoring the weight of what he's shared. Then she speaks. Her voice is calm, but there's a softness beneath it that tells him this matters to her too. She tells him she noticed the distance. That she gave him space because she wanted any step forward to be his choice, not something he felt pulled into. She admits, quietly, that the connection surprised her as well, not because of its intensity, but because of its ease. As she talks, her hand lifts slightly, hovering between them for a moment before settling against his cheek. The touch is gentle, grounding. Her thumb rests there, warm and still, and he feels the tension he's been carrying begin to loosen. The contact isn't meant to persuade him, it reassures him. He leans into her palm without thinking, the gesture small but honest. Her breath catches softly, and she doesn't pull away. I don't need promises, she says. I just need truth. Those words settle into him with clarity. He realizes that what he feared, expectations, pressure, judgment, were never part of this. What she offers is presence, not possession. He nods, the movement slow, deliberate. He tells her he wants this, not recklessly, not without care, but openly. He wants to keep choosing her, one honest moment at a time. Her smile returns then, warm and unguarded. She leans forward and presses a light kiss to his cheek, brief, affectionate, unmistakably tender. The warmth of it lingers, spreading through him in a way that feels both new and familiar. When she pulls back, their foreheads nearly touch. They stay there for a moment, sharing breath, sharing stillness. The fear doesn't disappear entirely. But it no longer leads. Honesty does. What changes first isn't the world around them, it's the way they move through it together. There's an ease now, a quiet alignment that doesn't need to be explained. They walk side by side, their pace naturally matched, as if they've been doing this longer than they have. Conversation flows without effort, drifting between light moments and thoughtful pauses, neither of them feeling the need to fill every silence. Physical closeness returns without hesitation. When they stop, she stands just close enough that his arm brushes hers. Her hand finds his easily, fingers threading with a familiarity that feels earned rather than rushed. The contact is warm, grounding. He notices how naturally he adjusts to her presence now, not out of nervousness, but comfort. The world still exists, of course. Glances from strangers, passing moments that remind him they're not invisible. But those things feel distant, secondary. What matters is the way she looks at him when she thinks he isn't paying attention, with softness, with curiosity, with a quiet pride that steadies him. They sit together somewhere familiar, their shoulders touching. She leans into him slightly, her head resting against his shoulder for just a moment. The weight of her there is gentle, trusting. He feels her breath rise and fall, slow and even, and without thinking, he angles himself to support her better. The gesture feels instinctive, like something his body has always known how to do. She lifts her head and looks at him, that smile returning, the one that started everything. But it's changed. It no longer unsettles him. It feels warm, shared. No sense of being claimed, only chosen. He realizes then that she never owned a part of him. She recognized one. The understanding settles into him with calm certainty. What they have isn't built on urgency or defiance. It's built on attention, respect, and the willingness to meet each other where they are. He feels steady in a way he hasn't before, grounded by the knowledge that he's allowed to grow within this connection, not rushed to justify it. As the evening deepens, they remain close, talking softly, laughing when something small delights them. Her hand rests on his thigh briefly, a casual, affectionate touch that feels natural now. When she squeezes his fingers, it's a quiet reassurance rather than a question. Later, when they part, she presses a gentle kiss to his cheek, lingering just long enough to matter. Her hand cups the back of his neck, thumb brushing his hairline before she lets go. The intimacy of the gesture leaves him warm, anchored. As she walks away, she glances back and smiles once more. This time, it doesn't make his heart race. It makes him feel at home. And as he turns toward whatever comes next, he knows, not with certainty about the future, but with confidence in the present, that this is a beginning he's ready to choose, again and again.